The Silent Exodus. The day humanity said no, the emergency session of the Galactic Assembly had never been called with such urgency. Kepler Station, a massive ring-shaped structure floating in neutral space, hummed with the nervous energy of 1,000 alien species. High Counselor Vexthera of the Zolonian Empire adjusted her crystalline breathing apparatus as she watched the main assembly hall fill with delegates from across the galaxy. Something was terribly wrong. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone at the central podium, her simple black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by every other delegate in the chamber. Her calm expression gave no hint of the storm that was about to break across the galaxy. Behind her, holographic displays showed the locations of human colonies, trade stations, and diplomatic outposts scattered across known space. Honored delegates, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation matrices that allowed hundreds of species to understand each other. I stand before you today to deliver humanity's final message to this assembly. A ripple of confusion passed through the chamber. Final message. The Zolonian High Counselor leaned forward, her four eyes focusing intently on the human ambassador. The insectoid Kresh delegates clicked their mandibles in agitation, while the gaseous Etherians shifted their containment fields nervously. For the past 50 years, Sarah continued, humanity has participated in this galactic community. We have followed your protocols, respected your boundaries, and contributed to what you call civilized society. We have been patient when you questioned our expansion. We have been understanding when you limited our trade rights. We have been diplomatic when you treated us as children playing with forces beyond our comprehension. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background hum of the station's systems seemed to quiet. Today, that patience ends. High Counselor Vexthera rose from her seat, her voice creating harmonic vibrations through the translation system. Ambassador Chen, what is the meaning of this dramatic presentation? If humanity has grievances, proper channels exist for. The proper channels, Sarah interrupted, her voice remaining perfectly calm, have failed. We have submitted 14,847 formal requests for expanded settlement rights. We have filed 8,329 trade dispute resolutions. We have participated in 2,156 diplomatic negotiations. In every case, the result has been the same. Humanity must wait. Humanity must be patient. Humanity must understand that we are newcomers to a galaxy with established rules. She paused, letting her words sink in. We understand now. The rules were never meant to include us as equals. Across the chamber, delegates began to stir uneasily. The Kresh representative, a towering insectoid with razor-sharp claws, spoke in rapid clicks that translated as urgent concern. What are you proposing, human? Revolution? War? Sarah smiled, and somehow that expression was more unsettling than any threat could have been. Nothing so crude, she said. We are simply exercising our right to choose our own path. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic protocols. We will no longer participate in this assembly. We will no longer recognize galactic authority over human affairs. You cannot simply leave. The Etherian delegate's gaseous form flared with agitation. The interconnected nature of galactic civilization means. Means what? Sarah asked. That we are trapped. That we have no choice but to accept whatever limitations you impose. You forget something important about humans, honored delegates. We have never accepted that anything was impossible. High Counselor Vexthera stood again, her crystalline form shimmering with barely contained anger. If humanity withdraws from galactic accords, you will lose all protection under interstellar law. Your colonies will be undefended. Your trade routes will be closed. Your technology transfers will cease. You will be alone in a hostile galaxy. Alone, Sarah repeated thoughtfully. Yes, we will be alone. We've been alone since the day we first looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them. Being alone has never stopped us before. She turned to face the massive holographic display behind her. With a gesture, she activated a command sequence that every delegate in the chamber would remember for the rest of their lives. One by one, the indicators showing human outposts across the galaxy began to change. Colony after colony, station after station, ship after ship, all switching from the standard galactic communication protocols to something else entirely. The displays showed humanity's presence across nearly 3,000 star systems, a network that had grown steadily for half a century. And now, in the space of 10 minutes, it was all going dark. The Kresh delegates' mandibles clattered frantically. This is impossible. Human settlements are integrated into galactic infrastructure. Your colonies depend on our supply chains. Your technology requires our resources. You cannot simply disconnect from everything. Watch us, Sarah said simply. The last human indicator on the display shifted to the new protocol. For a moment, the chamber was absolutely silent. Then, one by one, the human settlements began to disappear from galactic sensors entirely. High Counselor Vexthera's four eyes widened in disbelief. They're jamming our monitoring systems. No, said the Etherian delegate, their gaseous form rippling with shock. They're not jamming anything. They're gone. Sarah gathered her simple belongings from the podium. The galaxy has made it clear that humanity must know its place. Very well. We will find our own place, beyond your sight and beyond your reach. When you discover what that place is, remember this moment. Remember that you chose to see us as a problem to be managed, rather than a partner to be embraced. She began walking toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Wait, the Zolonian High Counselor's voice cracked with desperation. You cannot leave like this. There are protocols, procedures. What about the human civilians who wish to remain under galactic protection? Sarah paused at the chamber's threshold and looked back one final time. Every human settlement was given a choice. Every human citizen was asked a simple question. Do you trust humanity to find its own way among the stars? The answer, as you can see, was unanimous. This is madness, shouted a delegate from the Centaurian Federation. Humanity represents billions of beings. You cannot speak for all of them. I don't speak for them, Sarah replied. They spoke for themselves. Democracy, Counselor. Perhaps you've heard of it. She walked through the exit, leaving behind a chamber full of alien delegates staring at displays that showed empty space where human civilization had existed moments before. In the hours that followed, the true scope of humanity's exodus became clear. Every human colony, from the smallest mining outpost to the massive orbital cities around Alpha Centauri, had vanished from galactic sensors. Human ships that had been in transit simply disappeared. Communication relays went silent. Trade stations shuttered without warning. It was as if humanity had never existed at all. High Counselor Vexthera called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Security Council. Representatives from a dozen major civilizations gathered in a secure chamber deep within Kepler Station. Analysis reports, she demanded. The Kresh military advisor stepped forward, his exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights. We have attempted to track human vessels using quantum wake signatures. The trails simply end. No debris fields, no evidence of destruction. They have achieved some form of translocation that our sensors cannot detect. What about their colonies? Asked the Etherian representative. Planetary settlements cannot simply vanish. That's where it becomes truly disturbing, said the Centaurian Federation's science minister. We sent probe ships to known human colony worlds. The planets are still there. The infrastructure is gone, but there's no sign of evacuation, no evidence of mass transportation. It's as if millions of humans and all their technology simply ceased to exist. A chill ran through the chamber. These were civilizations that had mastered faster than light travel, quantum manipulation, and dimensional engineering. The idea that humanity possessed technology beyond their understanding was deeply unsettling. There's something else, added the creche advisor reluctantly. In the final moments before their disappearance, our sensors detected massive energy signatures from human settlements. Not weapons signatures, something else entirely. The quantum resonance patterns were unlike anything in our databases. High Counselor Vexthera's crystalline form dimmed with worry. Recommendations. We wait, said the Etherian delegate. Humanity will need to re-establish contact eventually. They cannot exist in complete isolation indefinitely. Can't they? Asked the Centaurian minister. We always assumed human expansion followed predictable patterns because they worked within our frameworks. What if they've been developing capabilities we never suspected? The question hung in the air like a threat. 6 hours after Sarah Chen's departure from Kepler Station, the galactic communication networks began registering anomalies. Not breakdowns or failures, but subtle changes in the underlying quantum infrastructure that enabled faster-than-light communication. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for centuries started experiencing unexplained delays. Navigation systems reported minor but consistent errors. It was the Etherian delegate who first voiced what everyone was beginning to suspect. What if humanity wasn't just participating in galactic civilization? What if they were integral to it in ways we never realized? High Counselor Vexthera stared at the tactical displays showing the galaxy-wide disruptions. Are you suggesting that humans were supporting our infrastructure? I'm suggesting, the Etherian replied, that we may have just discovered how dangerous it is to take helpful neighbors for granted. As the first day of humanity's absence drew to a close, the galactic community began to understand that they hadn't just lost a junior member of their civilization. They had lost something much more important, and they had no idea how to get it back. The storm they unleashed. When silence becomes thunder. 6 months had passed since humanity's silent exodus, and the galaxy was dying. High Counselor Vexthera stood in the emergency command center of Kepler Station, watching holographic displays that painted a picture of civilization in collapse. Trade routes that had operated for millennia were failing. Communication networks suffered cascading breakdowns. Entire sectors reported technological malfunctions that defied explanation. Status report, she commanded, her crystalline form reflecting the warning lights that now filled the chamber. Admiral Klextar of the Kresh military stepped forward, his exoskeleton bearing new scars from recent crisis deployments. The situation continues to deteriorate. The Andromeda trade corridor has completely shut down. We've lost contact with 17 sectors in the outer rim. The quantum relay networks are experiencing failures at a rate that exceeds our repair capabilities. What about the investigation teams? Vexthera asked. The Etherian scientific advisor, their gaseous form flickering with agitation, responded through their translation matrix. Every probe we've sent to former human territories has returned with the same results. Empty space, no trace of human presence, but also no evidence of departure. It's as if they simply edited themselves out of reality. Dr. Yenthila studied the patterns intently. The energy signatures are coordinated. Look at the timing intervals. They are communicating with each other across vast distances instantaneously. Not faster than light communication. Instantaneous. That's impossible, Vexthera said automatically. So was making an entire species disappear without a trace. Dr. Yenthila replied. Yet here we are. As if summoned by her words, every display in the command center suddenly changed. The normal tactical readouts vanished, replaced by a simple message in the common galactic script. We ini to tlk. The message appeared simultaneously across every communication system in the galaxy, every government building, every military installation, every civilian communication device displayed the same 4 words. Vexthera's form crystallized with shock. Trace the signal source. I'm trying. The Etherian advisor's form flared with effort. The signal isn't coming from any single point. It's everywhere. Every quantum relay, every communication satellite, every local network. It's as if the message is being generated by our own infrastructure. A new message appeared. Key EPLER Station CONFERENC Room 7 in 1 HOR. Come alone. Admiral Klextar stepped forward, his weapon systems automatically activating. This could be a trap. We should send a full security detail. No, Vexthera said quietly. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. They've clearly demonstrated control over our communication systems. What's to stop them from controlling our life support, our weapons, our ships? An hour later, High Counselor Vexthera entered Conference Room 7 alone. The small chamber was empty except for a simple table and 2 chairs. She waited. At exactly the appointed time, the air in the room seemed to shimmer. Not like a teleportation effect or holographic projection, more like reality itself was adjusting to accommodate something new. Sarah Chen materialized in the empty chair. She looked exactly the same as she had 6 months ago, except for her eyes. There was something different about her gaze, a depth that seemed to contain vast distances. "Hello, Vexthera," Sarah said, using the High Counselor's name without the formal title. "Thank you for coming alone." "Where is humanity?" Vexthera demanded, her diplomatic composure cracking. "What have you done?" "We've done exactly what we said we would do," Sarah replied calmly. "We found our own place among the stars. Your withdrawal is killing galactic civilization." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Is it? Or is it revealing that your civilization was never as stable as you believed? The infrastructure failures are not our responsibility," Sarah interrupted. "When we integrated into galactic society, we saw systems that could be improved. We made those improvements freely, without asking for credit or compensation. We did it because it was the right thing to do. And now you understand the difference between cooperation and dependence." Vexthera leaned forward, her crystalline form reflecting her desperation. "Can the situation be reversed? Can you restore what was lost?" "The question," Sarah said softly, "is whether you want us to." "Of course we want." "Do you?" Sarah's eyes seemed to look right through her. 6 months ago, your government viewed humanity as a problem to be managed, an upstart species that needed to be kept in its place. You had no interest in treating us as equals. You wanted us to be grateful for whatever scraps of autonomy you chose to grant us. That can change, Vexthera said quickly. Full membership in the Galactic Council, equal representation, full trade rights, whatever you want. Sarah smiled sadly. "You still don't understand. We don't want your permissions anymore, Vexthera. We don't need them." "Then what do you want?" "To show you what we've built." The conference room's walls suddenly became transparent, revealing not the corridors of Kepler Station, but the vastness of space itself. And floating in that space was something that defied comprehension. It was a structure, but calling it a space station would be like calling a symphony a simple song. It sprawled across light years, a living network of interconnected nodes that pulsed with energy patterns that seemed to follow the rhythm of a vast heartbeat. Ships, if they could be called ships, moved through the structure like thoughts through a mind, their forms shifting and adapting as they traveled. "This is where we've been," Sarah said. "Not hiding. Building. Creating something new." "How is this possible?" Vexthera whispered. "When you're not limited by other people's rules, you discover that the universe is far more flexible than anyone imagined. We've learned to work with reality instead of fighting against it, to build with quantum foam instead of simple matter, to think in dimensions that don't have names." The impossible vista continued to unfold. Vexthera could see what appeared to be entire worlds existing within the structure's framework, each one teeming with life and activity. Gardens that grew in patterns of pure energy, cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, people, humans, who moved and worked with technology that seemed indistinguishable from magic. "You've become something else," Vexthera said, awe and fear mixing in her voice. "We've become what we always had the potential to be," Sarah corrected. What we would have become centuries ago if we hadn't spent so much time trying to fit into other people's expectations. And now we make you an offer. The vista faded, and they were back in the simple conference room. The galactic civilization you've built is impressive, Sarah continued. Stable, orderly, predictable. It served you well for millions of years, but it's also stagnant. It's a closed system that resists change, that fears anything new or unpredictable. What are you proposing? Partnership, real partnership. Not humans begging for acceptance into your club, but two different approaches to existence working together. We can teach you what we've learned about adaptive technology, dimensional engineering, quantum consciousness integration. You can teach us about long-term stability, interspecies cooperation, sustained peace. Vexthera was quiet for a long moment. And if we refuse? Then we continue on our separate paths. Your civilization will eventually collapse under the weight of its own inflexibility. Ours will expand into dimensions you can't imagine. In a few thousand years, we'll be so different that we might not even recognize each other as having common origins. That sounds like a threat. It's a prediction, Sarah said. Change is the only constant in the universe, Vexthera. You can embrace it or be swept away by it, but you can't stop it. She stood to leave. Wait, Vexthera called. How do we contact you? How do we begin these negotiations? Sarah paused at the door. You don't contact us. When you're ready, truly ready, to accept that cooperation means equality, not subordination, we'll know. And we'll come to you. How will you know? Sarah smiled, and for a moment, her form seemed to shimmer with the same reality-bending effect that had announced her arrival. Because we're already here, Vexthera. We never really left. We just stopped pretending to be smaller than we are. She walked through the door, and the High Counselor was alone again. As news of the encounter spread through the galactic government, a debate began that would reshape the future of intelligent life in the universe. Some argued for immediate acceptance of humanity's offer. Others insisted that giving in to what they saw as extortion would set a dangerous precedent. But as system failures continued to cascade across known space, and as those mysterious energy signatures in deep space grew stronger and more numerous, the galaxy began to understand that the choice was no longer theirs to make. Humanity had moved beyond asking permission. The only question now was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready to follow them into whatever came next.